You drift in silence. No sound, no weight, no hurry, just the hush of eternity stretched thin across the void. You are floating now between the stars, and yet your eyes settle on something small, something ancient turning slowly in the dark. It is not a planet, not a moon. It has no glow, no breath, no song, and yet you sense something in its stillness, something older than the planets themselves. You are gazing at an asteroid, a lone wanderer, shaped not by wind or water, but by time and chance. You float closer. Its surface is scarred, pitted like the face of an old soul. Dark iron glints under powdered stone. Flecks of carbon and metal gleam like forgotten stars embedded in dust. You touch down softly, and the asteroid accepts your presence like it has accepted eons without question, without change. This place is a relic, a remnant, a leftover shard from the time before time, as we know it. Billions of years ago, the solar system was a whirl of chaos, dust and rock and gas spinning around a newborn sun. Worlds were forming, crashing, merging, melting, but not everything joined the dance. Some pieces never became planets. Some stayed small, quiet, incomplete, and in that incompleteness they remained unchanged. Like this asteroid beneath your feet, they kept the memory of what was the beginning. You imagine the early solar system as a storm of embers, fires colliding in slow motion, sparks flung across space. Asteroids were among those first embers, some forged in the inner furnace, rich with metal, others from the cooler reaches, full of ice and carbon. Each one holds a record, a timeline, not of life, not yet, but of the raw ingredients. This particular asteroid carries silicates and iron, a blend that speaks of heat and fire. You run your hand over its jagged face. These minerals, locked in place, have not changed in billions of years. They are storytellers, but they speak only in silence, in the language of chemistry and age. You close your eyes. Let the rhythm of your breath match the turning of this stone. Let your thoughts slow to the pace of orbit. Here, there is no rush. Time is patient, and in that patience there is something sacred. Somewhere beneath the surface lies chondrite, a primitive rock untouched by melting or differentiation. It's like holding a piece of the solar system's first thoughts, its earliest dreams, tiny grains, once drifting through the infant nebula, now locked in this cosmic keepsake. You listen to the quiet again. It's not empty. It hums with memory, a whisper of a time when everything was dust, and dust dared to dream of becoming more. Some asteroids, you recall, brought water to Earth. Others delivered amino acids, the basic threads from which life could one day be woven. They were messengers, not with intent, but with consequence. Their impacts shook the world, but in those impacts, new stories began. You begin to see these drifting stones not as debris, but as midwives of becoming, not lost, not failed, but vital. Their wandering helped shape the path of planets, and perhaps, in ways yet unknown, they still shape the unfolding future. Your thoughts drift to the asteroid belt, a vast invisible braid of rock and space between Mars and Jupiter. Once thought to be a shattered planet, now understood as a region that never coalesced. Jupiter's pull, immense and unforgiving, kept these fragments from gathering, so they remain apart, alone, but not forgotten. Even now, spacecraft visit them. Like Rosetta chasing the comet 67P, like OSIRIS-REx touching down on Bennu. We reach out to these travelers to gather what they remember, to decode the forgotten lullabies of creation. You lie back on the surface now. Look up. The stars do not blink. The void does not waver, but within you something stirs, a recognition of how small things can carry great meaning. In this floating stone, you feel the weight of origin. You feel what it means to endure, to carry forward without changing, to be a bridge from the birth of the solar system to this quiet moment, here with you. You wonder what stories lie in the cracks of this rock that no one has read. What secrets still sleep inside, waiting for the warmth of curiosity to awaken them. Time moves differently here, not in seconds or minutes, but in layers and collisions, in orbits and dust. And in that rhythm, your breath finds a new tempo, slower, deeper, older. You are part of it now. Not just a visitor, but a listener. A keeper of silent songs. And just as you settle into that feeling, you sense motion not your own, but of the cosmos unfolding. The asteroid turns beneath you. Beyond it, another form appears in the distance, larger, rounder, strange in its shimmer. Is it a comet? An icy traveler from farther out? You feel its pull, not gravity, but curiosity. You rise softly, slowly, leaving the cradle of stone behind. You drift now through a realm of stillness. A great black ocean scattered with silent relics. They do not shine like stars, nor burn like comets. These are the asteroids, ancient stones wandering the corridors between Mars and Jupiter, where gravity once tried to make a planet, but never quite succeeded. What remains is a belt of possibility, half-formed dreams of the early solar system. As you float closer, you feel their quiet pull, not gravitational, but something else. A kind of memory. Their surfaces are rough and shadowed, like the skin of time itself. Some are jagged, torn by collisions. Others are smooth and worn, softened by eons of solitude. They spin slowly in the dark, each on its own rhythm, each on a path charted long before your world had oceans. You pass one that's made almost entirely of metal, iron and nickel fused in silence. It looks like a broken piece of a core, torn from a long-lost planetesimal. You reach toward it. It hums with the faint echo of a stellar furnace, a whisper of the supernova that birthed its atoms. This metal, cool in your palm, was once molten in the heart of a dying star. Now it floats here, alone, untouched. Another glides past, darker, porous, carbon-rich. It smells, somehow, of chemistry. Here are the organics, the building blocks of life, frozen into the rock like seeds waiting for rain. On Earth, you know, such meteorites sometimes fell and brought amino acids in their bellies. Perhaps life needed these messengers, not just water, not just warmth, but something deeper. A cosmic spark inside a blackened shell, and there a tumbling snowball with a crust of frozen rock, an icy fragment, glistening in the sunless dark. These are the outer belt wanderers, cousins of comets. They carry ancient water, older than the Earth's oceans. In some theories it was asteroids like this that helped fill your planet's basins, not with storms or rivers, but with quiet impacts, one droplet at a time, over 1 billion years. You close your eyes and imagine the early solar system, chaos and collisions, the birth of heat and gravity. A storm of stones. In that primordial dance, these asteroids were leftovers, not discarded, but preserved. Where planets devoured and remade themselves, these rocks remained, untouched, unchanged. Time capsules in orbit. You drift past one the size of a city. It's round, dim, and dignified. A dwarf planet, really, hiding in the asteroid belt. Beneath its crust, it may hold an ocean, salty, briny, ancient. You wonder, could life float there in the dark? Not the life of light and leaves, but something smaller, colder, quieter, a patient life, a dreaming life. Others spin by Vesta, with its lava scars and mountain taller than Olympus Mons. Hygeia, dusky and mysterious. Eros, Gaspra, Ida, each with their own story, their own scars. Together they are a library without shelves, each asteroid a single page in the book of origin. Your mind begins to see patterns, the way metals cluster in some, while water clings to others, the way their orbits mark them as family Trojans, Greeks, main belt, near Earth. Some come close, brushing past Earth with ghost-like grace. These are the ones we watch not out of fear, but fascination. They are both threat and promise. For in their bellies lie riches, platinum, cobalt, gold, more than your world has ever mined. To some they are the next frontier, not just for knowledge, but for industry. One asteroid could hold trillions in value, but as you float here, they don't feel like treasure to be taken. They feel like wisdom to be earned. As if they're waiting for you to understand what they are, before you touch them too much. And still they drift, undisturbed. Most will never hit a planet. They orbit the sun like beads on an invisible thread, slow and faithful. Their dance is mathematical, ancient, quiet. Some have moons of their own, little rocks trailing bigger rocks, like children behind a parent. One even looks like a dog bone, another like a spinning top. None of them symmetrical, all of them perfect. You begin to feel their gravity in your thoughts, not the pull of mass, but of mystery. They carry no atmosphere, no weather, no winds, and yet they shape the futures of worlds. An impact could end an era. Another could start one. You recall how dinosaurs vanished with the fire of a single rock, but then how mammals rose, how intelligence grew, how you came to be. In some ways you were born of asteroids, of their chaos, of their chemistry, of their calm. They are not interruptions in the story of life, they are chapters. You drift longer, the stars stay still, the belt stretches on like a stilled river. You imagine sending machines here, and we have. Dawn, Osiris Rex, Hayabusa. They land gently, take samples, leave. The first pebbles brought home weigh only grams, but inside them are answers weighing billions of years. One day, you imagine we will walk on these worlds. We'll build habitats, spin cables, mine ice and metal. But you wonder, will we also listen? Will we treat them not just as resources, but as teachers? For they've been waiting. Not just to be touched, but to be heard. And now you listen. A hum, a silence, a weightless presence. You carry it with you as you drift onward towards something larger, something colder, where the rocks give way to shadows, where ice becomes architecture, where the comets wait and the outer dark begins. You drift through the ink of space, where silence folds over itself, undisturbed by wind or wave. Out here, nothing hurries. There is no need. A calm eternity stretches in all directions, and in that stillness, a flotilla of strange machines glides with solar wings spread wide like mechanical butterflies, catching light from a sun they never touch. You're not alone. You hover near these scouts, slender silver forms engineered for stillness and listening. They don't speak in sound, they speak in light. Each craft, each probe, watches the reflections of the sun as it glances off the surface of wandering asteroids. These floating rocks, scarred and silent, carry within them the same metals that once formed the hearts of planets. Gold, platinum, cobalt, water trapped in stone, not buried, but drifting. But how do these machines know what lies inside a lifeless rock? They do not crack them open or reach out with hands. Instead, they listen, they scan, they see through sunlight. The technique is called spectroscopy, a word that sounds like something sung by stars. When sunlight touches an asteroid, some of it is absorbed and some is reflected back. The reflected light carries secrets. It stretches into colors too fine for your eyes to see, tiny wavelengths whispering, "I am iron, I am nickel, I hold water." You imagine these spectral lines like notes in a galactic melody, invisible but rich with meaning. The machines read them like music, tuning themselves to each frequency with patient precision. When they detect just the right blend, the deep note of hydrated minerals or the high pitch of rare metals, they mark a place worth remembering. You glide closer to one of the machines. Its body is quiet, but alive with purpose. Solar panels tilt gently, following the sun's light like petals to warmth. A small sensor suite turns its face toward a passing rock, measuring not just the light, but the heat, the bounce of radar, the magnetic hum. It is a symphony of measurements, slow and deliberate. You listen too. There is something deeply human in the search, this act of scanning shadows for treasure, not out of greed, but out of curiosity, of wonder. In ancient days, humans panned rivers and carved mountains. Now, they send machines to trace invisible rainbows in the vacuum of space. You picture the process like a dream. A sensor blinks, a line appears on a screen. A signal pings home, not in excitement, but in quiet confirmation. "Here is iron," it says. "Here is the glint of platinum." The earthbound scientists nod slowly. They are watching through distant eyes, Some of these asteroids are 100 meters wide, some stretch kilometers long. Their surfaces are cratered, dusty, ancient, older than Earth itself, yet within them are the same ingredients that forged the early planets. They are not just rocks, they are time capsules, relics of a time before oceans or trees, and these spectral scouts do more than locate metal. They help us understand where water hides in space, a gift far more valuable than gold in the vast desert of the void. Water means fuel, water means life. The sensors look for hydration fingerprints in the infrared, tiny warmth signatures that say, this stone once touched ice. You feel the weight of it, not the weight of mass, but of meaning. A small patch of light on a monitor could signal the future of space exploration, a mining site, a refueling depot, a base, someday, on the edge of everything. And yet, for all this ambition, there is something deeply peaceful in the moment. These machines do not rush, they drift, they wait, they observe with devotion, like monks in orbit, meditating on the starlight. You think of them not as miners, but as librarians of the void, cataloguing the quiet library of rocks and metals. Each asteroid is a book written in ancient minerals. Each spectral reading is a paragraph of silent history. The spacecraft do not need rest. They sail on solar winds, powered by light. Their antennas gently hum as they relay their findings back to Earth, a soft rhythm in the electromagnetic quiet. Even their messages, traveling at the speed of light, take minutes or hours to reach home, but no one minds. This is a long game, a quiet science. Sometimes, a machine will be sent to a particular asteroid, not just to scan from afar, but to land. A brave descent. Robotic legs extend, thrusters fire. Dust rises in slow motion, then silence again. Instruments unfold like origami, touching the soil, sampling its chemistry grain by grain. Some probes even carry drills, gathering core samples from the inside, like sipping the history of a world. But even then, there is reverence in the act. The drilling is soft, controlled, the machines take only what they must. They learn then leave. The asteroid continues its path, undisturbed. You trail behind one such probe. Feeling its hum, you watch as it finishes its survey and lifts away, leaving behind only a slight shadow in the dust. It joins the silence again, floating on currents of light and patience. What would it feel like, you wonder? To spend decades scanning the dark for glimmers of meaning, to understand the universe not through touch, but through reflection. These machines do not dream, but you do, and in watching them something inside you stirs, a deeper seeing, a slower kind of knowing, and slowly, softly, you begin to understand the act of looking, truly looking, is a kind of love. A devotion to what is out there, unshaped by us, untouched yet deeply known. The gold they find, the metals they mark, they are not riches in the old sense. They are steps in a quiet expansion, not conquest but connection. The first signs that humanity's gaze has grown gentle and wide. You float a little farther, following the trail of spectral echoes, wondering which stone will sing the next song. Will it be rich in water, or iron, or mystery? You don't know, but the scouts will know, and they will tell us in light. And just ahead, barely visible, another machine adjusts its path, tracing a shadow across a cold rock. Its signal begins to rise, subtle and steady, like a soft breath. The world below still slumbers in shadow as the countdown begins. You lie on your back, cradled in a cocoon of metal and mathematics, heart steady beneath layers of fabric and foam. Outside, the sky deepens not into night, but into something beyond it. A velvet vastness, a space waiting to be crossed. The engines rumble low and distant, like thunder remembered from another life. Then ignition. You rise, not like a bird, not even like a flame, but like a question, lifting into the unknown. The ground falls away, slow at first, then faster still. Gravity tugs at you like a memory. You can't quite let go. Your body pushes into the seat, pressed by the force of escape. The launchers abloom, fiery petals unfurling in reverse, sending you upward instead of outward into the cold, pale morning of space. Clouds flash past, then vanish. You breach the blue. The sky no longer bends overhead, but stretches infinitely in all directions. Down below, Earth becomes a whisper, curved, shimmering, alive. The engines hush. Silence floods the capsule. You are in orbit. Here, speed wears the mask of stillness. You rush around the Earth at thousands of kilometers per hour, yet it feels as if you hang suspended, wrapped in silence and slow turns. The planet rolls gently beneath you, oceans curling into light, continents sliding past, like thoughts too large to hold all at once. Storms spiral, rivers gleam, cities blink their electric lullabies. You float, not just your body, your mind too. Thoughts stretch out without gravity, drifting between memories and the moment. You sip water from a silvered bubble, watching it shimmer like a captive moon. Every motion is ballet deliberate, slow, precise. You move not by force, but by persuasion. Days pass, like breaths. Sunrises come every 90 minutes, gold and pink and white, pouring through the small round window like secrets whispered from a star. Nights fall just as quickly. You watch the Earth turn beneath its veil, blinking its city lights into the dark. You are above the weather, above the wars, above the noise, but never far from wonder. And then you prepare to go farther. Orbit was the beginning, not the end. A ledge, not a landing. You are not just circling, you are waiting for the door to open wider. The transfer burn is quiet, just a flicker. The engine fires, short and soft, and suddenly, your path changes. The gravity of Earth begins to loosen its grip. You are climbing again, this time without roar or flame. Just mathematics and momentum. Outward now, beyond the belt of satellites, beyond the vanishing line where the Earth becomes a dream. You enter the deep, the space between things. You move not by your own power now, but by a cosmic inheritance, the quiet laws that govern motion among the stars. This part of the journey is slow. There is no sound here but the ticking of systems and the whisper of air recyclers. Silence is not absence, it is presence. It fills the capsule like breath. You begin to hear things you never noticed before. The sigh of your own lungs, the echo of your pulse in your ears, the quiet press of your thoughts turning inward. Your window frames a new kind of beauty, not clouds or coastlines, but the darkness itself. Stars do not twinkle here. They shine steady, sharp and ancient, each one a sun far beyond your reach, yet somehow close enough to touch with your eyes. Some are red, some white, some blue. You wonder what worlds circle them. You wonder if someone looks back. Time slows, not literally but experientially. Days bleed into one another without sunrise or sunset to divide them. You mark them by the careful rituals of spaceflight. Hydration, exercise, monitoring systems, checking instruments. You sleep in a cocoon, velcroed into stillness, rocked only by thought. And still you drift, not aimlessly, but with purpose. Every arc, every angle, every calculation has brought you here. This is not a voyage of escape. It is a pilgrimage, a seeking. You recall the voice of your instructor once explaining the art of orbital mechanics. Spaceflight, she said, is just falling with style, falling in such a way that you never hit the ground. Now you understand, you are always falling towards something, or away, yet always in balance, always in dialogue with gravity. It pulls, you yield. It loosens, you coast. And here, far from Earth, suspended in the quiet theater of space, you begin to feel the weight of weightlessness, not as a freedom, but as a discipline. Everything you do matters. Every ounce, every watt, every movement must be considered. Precision becomes peace. Order becomes comfort. You become the system, not just a traveler in it, but part of its flow. You glance again through the window. The Earth is small now, a dot of ocean and cloud, blue against black, turning in slow majesty. You are no longer part of its breath, but you carry its scent. The language of rain, the hush of wind, the gravity of home. You are not alone. Not truly. Around you are instruments and circuits, signals and systems, and the quiet knowing that others watch from below, minds and hands that helped build this path, this vessel, this moment. Space is empty, yes, but not absent of meaning. Out here you begin to listen to more than silence. You listen to the questions that rise like steam. Where does gravity end? What holds the stars together? How do we move through a universe so vast, so delicate? The answers perhaps are not found in formulas alone, but in the experience of floating, of surrendering to the void and finding that it holds you, and then you sense it. Faint at first but growing, a pull, not from Earth now, but from something else. Another world, waiting. Another gravity, calling. You are falling again, falling forward, falling toward a destination not just of coordinates but of curiosity. The capsule hums, systems awaken. Your journey is changing shape once more. The silence begins to echo with promise. A planet waits in the dark, not Earth but not empty, either. You watch its curve rise ahead like a thought just forming, and you wonder, what is it like to land on a world that has never known your name? They float, not walk. They reach, not run. You first see them gliding across the ink-black void, their bodies jointed like insects, but deliberate like artists. Long arms fold and extend, brushing dust from stone with a patience older than memory. No sound escapes their efforts, only motion, deliberate and slow, as if every gesture carries meaning in this vacuum ballet. These are the machines that mine asteroids, tireless, faceless, and without lungs to fill. They carry no breath, only circuits. Wrapped in mirrored foil and armor the color of frost, they cling to rock like vines on ancient ruins. This is their home now, a place without horizon, without wind, a world where only the hum of purpose moves things forward. You watch as one machine angles a small drill into the surface of a nearby asteroid. The stone is a relic from the birth of worlds older than oceans, older than moons, a place where metals sleep, hidden in layers of nickel, iron, and platinum. With every rotation of the drill, centuries of silence are disturbed, a tiny echo felt through structure but not sound. They are not simple tools. Each arm is guided by a delicate orchestra of code and sensor, a ballet of feedback and command, thought and reaction. Cameras blink, like eyes. Pressure gauges pulse, like heartbeats. They learn with every scrape, adjusting grip, recalibrating strength. Not mindless, not sentient, but somewhere in between. Their intelligence is quiet, distributed, embedded in the motion itself. These machines are dreams we cast into orbit. Dreamers of metal, made by hands that could never survive out here. You notice the grace in their work, not brute force, but tenderness. They cradle boulders with cradles of carbon fiber, sample soil with spoons no wider than a finger. Every particle is precious, every motion practiced, and always they move in rhythm. There's a strange comfort in their choreography, a sense that nothing is rushed, that everything has its time. The drills pause when heat builds, the arms pull back when dust swirls too thick. Patience is their gift. Even the conveyor belts that feed the collected material into tiny onboard smelters do so with reverence, not clattering metal, but gentle hums and magnetic slides. In the vacuum of space, every movement costs energy, every misstep risks destruction. So these machines learn to conserve, to wait, to adapt. One stretches an arm to adjust a solar panel, catching a sliver of the sun's light, like a leaf finding morning. Another digs a trench just deep enough to reach a vein of cobalt, then seals it shut with a puff of insulating foam. Minimal waste, maximum return. What do they mine? Metals, mostly the kind Earth needs in every chip and wire, every battery and satellite. Iron for structure, nickel for alloys, platinum for precision, but also water frozen in shadows, trapped in gravel. They collect it molecule by molecule, store it in belly-like tanks, and sometimes break it apart. Hydrogen for fuel, oxygen for breath. A kind of alchemy that turns stone into survival. You begin to notice something else. Each robotic miner has a slightly different way of moving. Some are fastidious, always double-checking alignment before touching a drill. Others are more fluid, adapting as they go, letting the stone guide the gesture. No two behave quite the same. Their software evolves with every interaction, sculpted by the rocks themselves. In a way, The asteroid teaches them how to harvest it. This is not just industry, it's a conversation. You imagine the machine's sensors whispering to the rock, "Where do you hold your secrets?" And the rock replying in its own way with subtle shifts in texture and resistance, "Here, but gently." They listen. That is their genius, listening not with ears but with torque feedback, temperature readings and high-resolution spectrometry. A silence filled with understanding. The oldest of the robots bears the signs of wear micrometeorite pockmarks, faded markings. Still it works, slower now, but with unmatched precision. You feel something like respect. This is a craftsman in the guild of vacuum. All around it, its kin continue the ritual. Some are tethered to motherships' long, cylindrical habitats orbiting like silent whales. Others roam freely, operating independently for weeks at a time. They report back through beams of light, tight pulses of data beamed across millions of kilometers. No radio chatter, no human voices, just the language of code, precise and minimal. And above them all, orbiting higher still, satellites track their every movement. They guide from afar, update maps, adjust paths. The choreography is complex, but seamless. You get the sense that even the smallest pebble's movement is accounted for, that nothing here is left to chance. These machines are alone, yet connected not just to each other, but to us. They are our extended hands, our eyes in the dark. Where we cannot breathe, they thrive. Where we fear radiation, they bask in it like sunbathers on distant shores. And still they keep digging, not greedily, but methodically. Not to strip, but to learn. Every core sample they return contains a story of solar flares long past, of collisions that carved craters, of minerals forged in stellar furnaces. They are the archaeologists of silence, the librarians of cosmic rubble. And when their work is done, they do not leave scars. They patch, cover, smooth. Some even plant small reflective markers, not flags, but memories, tokens to say, "We were here but we were gentle." You feel yourself floating in thought, drawn to their quiet competence, their elegance in purpose. It's a reminder that not all explorers wear helmets. Some are made of wire and willpower. One robotic arm pauses. A sensor glows blue. A decision is being made. Should it proceed with extraction, or wait for the sun's angle to shift, so shadows no longer obscure the sample? It waits. No urgency, no fear, only purpose. Only patience. And as you drift further into this mechanical garden of effort and grace, a new question arises in your mind, soft but insistent. You float gently now, deeper into the dark. The engines are quiet. The stars blink slow and far. Before you is a quiet speck of stone, an asteroid. Ancient, pocked and overlooked, drifting with no sound, but full of quiet promise. You drift closer. This is no ordinary rock. It holds the secret reservoirs of deep time. Each crater is a fingerprint of the solar system's past, older than Earth, untouched by wind or rain or flame. A frozen story, a locked vault. With a soft hum the robotic arms unfold, not with greed but with a kind of reverence. You reach for a piece of the asteroid's crust, and as you collect it the dust rises like powdered memory. Inside this dust, tiny miracles wait. Some asteroids, called carbonaceous chondrites, carry water not flowing like a river, but hidden in hydrated minerals. You imagine heating a chunk just warm enough, watching steam rise in coils, condensing into droplets, clear, quiet, drinkable. Water from a place that's never known life. Yet here it is, ready to sustain it. You drift further down the asteroid's surface. Other rocks sparkle in the low light. Nickel, iron, platinum, gold. Not buried in deep seams like on Earth, but exposed, shallow, waiting. Your hand brushes across a metal-laced plain. You think of old mines, dynamite blasts, poisoned rivers, but here in the weightlessness of space there is no scarring, no spillage, just collection, just harvest, silent, clean, slow. This is the beginning of space industry, but it feels nothing like a factory. It feels like gardening stars. You reach a hollow in the rock, a soft depression. Inside it, trapped sunlight has warmed helium-3, a rare isotope, barely found on Earth, but here it clings to the dust, whispering of future power. No carbon, no smoke, just fusion, clean and near limitless. You imagine one day a ship fueled by asteroid-sourced helium, its journey powered by the breath of stars. No need to dig into Earth's crust. No need to burn or spill, just what the universe already offers. Somewhere deeper in the rock, rare earth elements nestle: neodymium, lanthanum, samarium. These names feel hard in your mouth, but they live inside every screen and motor you've ever touched. On Earth, they're painfully mined. Here they rest without resistance. The universe, it seems, is generous when you ask softly. And it's not only the rocks that give the space around them too, has a currency: momentum, gravity, trajectory. You think of positioning a small processing pod. The sun's energy gathered by unfurling panels powers lasers that separate minerals with no smoke, no ash, only light. It's quiet work, but in that quiet entire worlds of potential are built. Water becomes fuel, metals become frames and circuitry, helium becomes energy. And as you sit there anchored gently to the asteroid, you realize this isn't just extraction, it's transformation. Not of the rock, but of us. We used to think the Earth was all we had, that its riches were final, its limits permanent. But here in the dust between planets, you discover something else: that abundance isn't noise or urgency. It's quiet, it waits, and it gives, if you approach with care. The asteroid spins slowly under you. Its surface is grey, shadowed and rough. But your instruments sing their readings hum in your ear, soft as a lullaby. Carbon, iron, nickel, cobalt, olivine, pyroxene, silicates. A whispering vocabulary of spaceborne wealth, and not wealth for wealth's sake. Not numbers on screens or coins in vaults, but sustenance, structure, survival. Fuel for journeys, material for habitats. Oxygen extracted for breath, all from what once looked like rubble. You float upward, above the horizon of the rock. Behind it the sun glows cold and gold. You imagine mirrors stretching out, gathering sunlight to power small factories in orbit, automated, quiet, clean. No cities, no crowds, just machines working in slow rhythm, processing, melting, shaping, sending parts and products along invisible lanes to moons, to ships, to outposts yet unborn. You feel awe, but not the kind that rushes. This is a slow awe, a settling realization. Space isn't empty, it's full of materials, full of solutions, full of chances we didn't see until now. And yet this work comes with questions. Should we touch every rock that passes by? Do we risk losing silence in our hunger? Or can we learn to take without scarring, to build without breaking, to grow without greed? You hover above the asteroid now, its surface gleaming like cooled lava. You imagine a garden of machines, each one tending an orbiting rock, pulling water and metal and gas, not for endless profit, but for patient progress, to prepare the roads ahead, to build what will float and fly, to share what Earth can no longer give alone. And still the silence hums. This place, this rock, has waited billions of years. It can wait a little longer, but now we see it. We reach gently. You adjust course. A new object appears in your sights, a darker asteroid, more distant. Its surface is carbon black, and hidden within it, molecules of life. The kind that once stirred in Earth's oceans, the kind that might whisper of origins. And suddenly the question changes, not just what we can take, but what we might find. What came before breath? What came before blood? What secrets sleep in the dark? You drift toward that mystery now, your ship sailing quiet between the stars, and the next question rising like dawn over a barren black horizon. You drift, slowly, gently, into a space not defined by gravity or ground. Around you, silence. Ahead of you, shimmering rocks, distant and bare, cradling metals older than Earth itself. This is no market square, no clatter of coins, no rustle of bills, just drifting stones in the void. And yet, value pulses here, not value as you know it, not forged by hands or bound by borders, but something older, more primal, value shaped by the absence of touch, by the rarity of presence. These asteroids, ancient wanderers, hold platinum, gold, cobalt, water, ice, and dreams, bundled in silence. And because they are far and strange and yet reachable, they whisper wealth. You float through the unbuilt bazaars of space commerce. No stalls, no signs, only simulations. A quiet map unfurls before you, graphs of projected worth, curves of economic gravity. What is the price of a metal that costs more to retrieve than to refine? What's the value of a thing we've never held? There are no simple answers, only quiet debates between economics and awe. In one imagined future, a single asteroid barely a kilometer across could contain more platinum than has ever been mined on Earth. You see it, sleek, grey, lonely, a drifting fortune. But if you bring it all back, what happens to platinum's worth? Do riches become rubble when abundance arrives too fast? Supply overflows, prices collapse, markets panic in silence. And yet it's not just about metals, there's water locked in stone out there, HALP 2O in the form of ice, precious for astronauts and future colonies. You watch a projection of a station orbiting a water-rich asteroid. Tubes melt the ice, filter it, bottle it, split it into oxygen to breathe and hydrogen to burn. Not gold, but life. And life always is priceless until someone tries to buy it. Still you float into deeper corridors of this imagined market. You hear not shouting traders, but quiet whispers of algorithms, investors and plans. Earthbound companies have already staked claims, maps etched with legal boundaries no ship has yet crossed. Corporations dream of hauling space rocks home, turning ancient iron into shares and dividends. But nothing is simple. Who owns a rock floating in the dark? Is it the first to reach it? The first to dream of it? Or does space belong to all, and thus to none? Treaties swirl like cosmic dust. Outer space treaty, moon agreement, laws not yet tested by real missions. You float through these words, soft legal ghosts. They say no nation may own celestial bodies, but companies, they blur the lines. You wonder, can value be claimed from the void? Can profit be born without conflict? Or will the scramble for riches sow the seeds of distant war? Still your pace is slow. You're not here to judge, only to feel. To let the questions drift into you. Some see asteroid mining as salvation. Earth is tired, her ores are fewer, her wounds many. Perhaps out there lies relief, a new frontier of clean extraction, free from rivers and rainforests. But even in space, mining leaves a mark. Energy must be spent. Machines must be made. There is no free gold, not even in the stars. So you drift through alternatives. 3D models of space-based foundries forming metals mid-orbit. Solar panels harvesting energy endlessly. Robotic arms plucking nuggets from spinning stone. It all feels possible, and distant, and real, and dreamy. You pass through another corridor. Speculation. Stock tickers flash silently in your mind. Investors bet on companies with no ships, no shovels, only hope. It's a strange thing to build wealth on the promise of touch, to build value on distance. What is money in this new age? A promise, a story, a tether between dream and deed. Your thoughts spiral back to Earth. Here value is built on scarcity, need, effort. But in space is abundance the enemy of worth? If gold rains from the sky, will we still call it precious, or will it lose its luster the moment it becomes common? The paradox hums in you. You remember tales of ancient explorers who crossed oceans for spice, for silk, for salt. Back then, distance was value. The harder it was to get something, the more it meant. Is this the same, or is space too far, even for meaning? You float past simulations of cargo pods landing softly on lunar pads, full of asteroid ore. Earth watches with awe and caution. With every gram returned, a question echoes louder. What is the cost of this wealth? Not just in dollars or hours, but in vision, in power, in future consequences we haven't yet dreamed. And so the markets remain imagined, but not idle. Engineers design, laws evolve, ambitions grow. The rocks wait, spinning slowly, indifferent to our dreams. In the stillness of space, value is patient. And as you linger in this weightless marketplace, you realize the real worth lies not just in the metal, or the mining, or even the money. It lies in the story, in the shared dream that humans can reach out and touch the ancient, the unreachable, and turn it into something meaningful. Maybe it's not the asteroid that holds value, but the act of trying. You exhale. The stars shimmer gently, and somewhere just ahead, a new thought glows like a quiet lantern. If these stones can be claimed and measured, what, then can't be? What happens when we mine, not for gold, but for time? You drift in stillness, surrounded by velvet darkness and pinpricks of ancient light. A rock, no. A mountain floats beside you, adrift in the solar winds. It is cold, silent, and heavy with promise. Inside it sleeps gold, platinum, cobalt treasures curled in the folds of ancient stone. You feel it, like a pulse beneath your feet, untouched, unclaimed, waiting, but then a question surfaces, as soft as mist. Who does this belong to? You turn toward Earth, far below and growing ever smaller, wrapped in its pale blue shimmer. Down there voices are not so still. They write words. They draw borders. They build agreements that stretch like invisible thread between sky and soil. In 1967, humans signed the Outer Space Treaty, a gentle declaration that the moon and other celestial bodies are the province of all humankind. No one can claim sovereignty, it says. No flags may bind the stars. Yet here you are, floating beside a rock rich with value, and the world spins below, hungrier than ever. You imagine hands, many hands reaching out through time, countries, companies, entrepreneurs with gleaming dreams and stock portfolios. They peer into the dark, not with awe, but with ambition. They don't just see metal, they see leverage, currency, wealth that can transform markets and reshape nations. And still you wonder, can something that orbits the sun belong to anyone at all? The idea of property, of ownership, is ancient. It began not with stars, but with soil, fences, fields, names carved in bark or pressed into clay. We built civilizations on the belief that things could be ours. But here in the hush of space, the rules begin to bend. Asteroids don't grow crops. They don't lie within borders. They move freely, untouched by laws we wrote on paper. Yet humans, ever inventive, adapt. In 2015, the United States passed a law that said American companies could own what they extract from space. Luxembourg followed, then the United Arab Emirates. Not ownership of the land itself. No, the treaties forbid that, but of the materials, the ore, the gold. As if the asteroid is a mine without a country, floating in a global sea. You float beside this drifting vault, feeling the friction of values, the tug between exploration and extraction, between wonder and wealth. This is not conquest in the old sense. There are no native peoples here, no cultures to disrupt, but there is still a quiet ethical current, pulling through the void. Should the riches of space be shared, or earned? Some say yes, this is our collective inheritance, a commons beyond Earth, held in trust for all. Like the air, or the oceans. They argue for equity, that no single nation or company should hoard what was never theirs, that asteroid gold should fund schools, water, shelter, a future for everyone. Others see risk investment, innovation, bravery. They say those who dare should reap the rewards. That without incentive, no one will go, no one will build, no one will explore. The universe will stay dark, and possibility will rot in potential. The debate turns like orbits, slow, predictable, tense. You see a room, polished floors, flags behind long tables, and delegates with papers and pens. The United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Users of Outer Space meets often, speaking gently of governance, sustainability, transparency. Their words are careful, shaped by centuries of conflict and cooperation, but still outside those rooms, rockets launch, private companies test drills, sketch refineries, dream of supply chains stretching from asteroid belt to Earth orbit. They imagine tugboats for rock, robotic harvesters, floating smelters, a celestial economy. And yet, space remains silent. No asteroid has yet yielded its treasure. No one has yet carved their name into a comet's crust, but the intentions are loud. The blueprints are drawn. The race, if not running, is lacing its shoes. You feel it now, the fragility of agreement, how easily peace can be undone by need, or greed, or desperation. And you think of the moon, that gentle sentinel. It once knew flags and footsteps, now it may know factories. Will Mars be next, and after Mars the icy moons, the gas giants, the stars? When does exploration become possession? When does curiosity become conquest? There is no single answer, only the shimmer of choices ahead, like constellations we have yet to name. Perhaps the key lies not in law, but in culture. In how we teach ourselves to dream. If we approach space as caretakers, as guests, we might build differently, not to own, but to participate. To belong to the stars, not bend them to our will. You close your eyes and drift alongside the asteroid. It hums in its orbit, uncaring. There is no claim here, no treaty carved into its crust, no flag flapping in the vacuum. Only silence, only stone, only potential. And in that quiet, a new question stirs softer still. If we mine the stars, who are we becoming? Not just what we take, but what we choose to leave behind. You float in silence, tethered only by a thin line of thought. Before you, the asteroid turns slowly, a tumbling relic of time, dark, pocked, ancient. No sound escapes it, no wind brushes its dust. It is a place where gravity has let go, and nothing settles, nothing stays. Around it, machines hum softly. They glide and pivot, like dancers in slow motion. There is grace in their precision, elegance in their logic. They touch the rock, not with brute force, but with understanding, coaxing its secrets loose rather than breaking them open. You drift closer, noticing the quiet marvel of it all, how the engineers have learned to mine in a place where weight is a myth. In space there is no down. There is no soil that yields beneath your feet, no pressure that holds a shovel in place. If you push, you drift. If you pull, you spin. Everything here is motion, and so the solutions must also move. To drill a hole into a rock that floats is not like drilling on Earth. If you press a drill forward, the rock spins away, so instead they anchor. Harpoons fire gently into the surface, threading lines that tighten with care. Nets wrap around the stone like the arms of a cautious hug. These are not acts of conquest, but of invitation, slow, studied, sure. Some robots carry spinning flywheels inside their chests, spinning faster or slower to control their orientation. Others use tiny bursts of cold gas, nudging themselves into position with puffs like breath. Every movement is a negotiation with the void, a question of balance answered in equations and instinct. You see a robot land on the rock, not with a thud, but a whisper. Its legs unfold like petals, spreading wide for stability. Microspikes at the tips sink gently into dust, anchoring it just enough. And then it begins to dig, not by pushing, but by pulling the rock toward itself, slowly, persistently, like a child drawing a heavy blanket close. The drill is not loud, it hums softly, like a lullaby. And as it bores inward, you can almost hear the song of the asteroid, a soundless vibration through the metal bones of the machine. It is patient. There is no rush in space, only rhythm. Chunks of regolith, that's what they call asteroid soil, are collected in sacks that float beside the machine. They don't fall, they hover. Each speck moves with intention, captured by fields of static electricity or magnetism, sorted not by conveyor belts but by currents and careful suction. And all the while, data flows like water. Sensors measure the grain, the mass, the spectral signature of every bite taken. Engineers watch from afar, eyes soft with focus, hands resting near controls. They barely need to touch. The machines are autonomous, but not alone. Each decision is a dialogue, each action a dance between code and cosmos. You begin to understand asteroid mining is not extraction, it is choreography. It is a ballet between what we know and what we've learned to feel, a duet of metal and dust, purpose and patience. They are not ripping riches from the stone. They are asking, "What are you made of?" And the rock, slowly, answers. It tells of water, trapped in minerals, of nickel, cobalt, platinum, rare earths born in dying stars, of carbon compounds that hint at the story of life's building blocks. These are the treasures not just for markets or missions, but for understanding, for tracing our origins, molecule by molecule. You imagine a future where these rocks become fuel stations, supply depots, laboratories, where mining is not destruction, but stewardship, tending the garden of the solar system with tools of empathy and precision. But this garden is delicate. There is danger here too. One careless movement, and dust can spiral outward, traveling for decades. One mistimed burn, and a rock becomes a bullet. So everything is deliberate. Every action is gentle. You look again at the harpoons, the nets, the drills that pull rather than push. You see how our old metaphors of force and dominance don't belong here. In space, survival means grace, progress means humility. And mining becomes a form of listening. You let yourself float. The rock turns beside you, slow as thought. You're no longer just watching machines. You're watching an idea learning how to move without weight, how to touch without pressing, how to take without harm. Somewhere inside, a quiet pride grows, not of conquest, but of connection. That we, fragile beings of air and water, have reached out across the void and learned how to hold a stone without crushing it. That we can build in a place without edges, that we can extract without erasing, that we can exist without anchoring, and still belong. The stars shift slightly, light bending around your thoughts. You close your eyes and feel the rotation of the asteroid, the gentle hum of activity all around. It is not loud, it is not fast, but it is real. Out here, movement is meaning, and every solved problem is a poem, written in thrusts and tethers, in silence and spin. As the chapter closes, the machines begin to withdraw. The sacks of soil float back toward waiting ships. The rock remains, lighter by only a breath, not wounded, not stripped, just understood, just shared. And as your eyes drift across its turning face, you wonder if this is how we mine in silence and shadow. How will we build? What shape will our homes take, when even shelter must be weightless? You return to Earth, not with the thunder of engines, but with a hush. The world below seems quieter now, as if the sky itself is holding its breath. Your feet touch soil again, yet the weight is different, not heavier, not lighter, just more aware. The clouds above no longer seem like soft drifting things. They feel like curtains pulled between realms, sky and space, dream and memory. You look up and remember where you've been, among asteroids that shimmer like rusted relics and glint like treasure troves, floating in slow silence between planets. You saw what Earth forgets, that value is not inherent in the material, but in the meaning we assign to it. Gold, up there, it wasn't guarded by vaults or claimed by borders. It sat untouched on the surface of drifting stones, sunlight brushing its raw skin like a secret waiting to be remembered. On Earth, gold pulls at the strings of economies, drives ambition, sharpens greed. But in space it's quiet, lonely, abundant, and somehow that changes everything. You think about this as you walk through the world again, through cities filled with lights and movement, where everyone is trying to be somewhere else. Here, wealth is chased. Ownership matters, but you've seen another way of existing, where nothing is owned, and yet everything is beautiful. If asteroids hold metals beyond counting platinum, iridium, nickel, cobalt, gold, then what does wealth mean now? If you could mine just one small rock the size of a house and bring it back, the markets would tremble, currencies would flutter. Nations might rise or fall, not from war, but from the slow pull of abundance. Because when scarcity disappears, desire doesn't vanish, it evolves. Would we still chase gold if it fell from the sky, like rain? Would we still measure power in possession, or would we begin to measure it in wisdom, in restraint? You walk past a jeweler's window. Gold gleams behind the glass, coiled into rings and locked in boxes. You wonder how it would feel to tell the people inside that this gold, once a prize, is now as common as gravel. Would their eyes widen in fear, or would they laugh, unburdened? You pause under a tree, its leaves shimmer slightly in the breeze, green against blue, life against air. You listen. The world has a new sound to it now, not louder, just deeper. You hear the echoes of what you learned out there. That value is perspective. That distance teaches clarity, and that when we let go of the chase, we begin to arrive. You remember a scientist who once said, "The stars are not out of reach, we just need the will and the care to touch them." Care, that word echoes now louder than the rest. Because space is not a place to conquer, it's a place to understand. To approach gently, like a deer at a forest edge. We've taken so much from Earth. Could we learn to take differently from the sky? Asteroid mining could reshape everything. It could provide rare metals for solar panels, batteries, clean energy technologies. It could end scarcity-driven conflict. Or it could do the opposite, provoke new battles, new lines drawn, new races begun. It depends on how we reach. It depends on who we choose to become. You think of treaties still unwritten, of questions not yet asked. Who owns what floats in the void? Can a rock 1,000,000 kilometers away belong to anyone at all? And if it can, should it? The stars don't rush, they wait. And perhaps we should too, to ask first, to listen first, to imagine not just what we can do, but what we should. In this moment, under the tree, you feel time slow. You're back on Earth, yes. But not the same Earth, because your eyes have seen farther. Because your breath carries the rhythm of orbits now. Children run past you laughing. One of them points at the sky. Look, a satellite. You follow her finger and see a tiny glint moving across the dusk. It's not gold, not a meteor, not a ship, just a small reminder that we are out there now, that we are reaching. And in their laughter, in their pointing fingers, you hear the future not as certainty, but as possibility. A future where children may work not in mines, but in control rooms. Where wealth is no longer hoarded, but shared. Where we use what floats above, not to dominate, but to heal. You think of the word harvest, how it once meant pulling from the soil with reverence. Could asteroid mining become a cosmic harvest? Could we treat the solar system like a shared garden, not a gold rush? You let your eyes close. Behind your lids, you see metals glinting on cold rocks, but you also see water flowing in drought-filled lands, powered by spaceborne technologies. You see hospitals lit by solar fields built from asteroid alloys. You see balance tentative, fragile, but real. And then you hear it again. That echo, a low resonant hum of potential, not loud, not urgent, just there like the sound of wind in high places, or the memory of a dream. You open your eyes, above you stars are beginning to pierce the twilight. You're home, but different. Because once you leave the atmosphere, once you see Earth from the silence of the beyond, you can never quite return in the same way. You carry stillness now. And in that stillness, a question glows: what will we become, now that the sky is no longer empty? You float now in silence, not the silence of emptiness, but the kind that arrives when a question echoes through space. A question you didn't ask out loud, but one that lingers nonetheless, like a soft pulse beneath your thoughts. Is everything that shines meant to be taken? You pass through a drift of metallic dust, a glimmering ribbon stretching across the black velvet of space. The particles sparkle gold, nickel, platinum, rare earths, once thought to be bound beneath planetary crusts. And now they move freely in cosmic winds, remnants of ancient collisions, of worlds shattered and scattered. Here in this quiet corridor between stars, you are surrounded by riches. Not just wealth in the human sense, not coin, not currency, but the raw essence of planets, forged in deep time, waiting, floating, silent. And you begin to wonder, if we could reach them, should we? The science of asteroid mining is no longer a far-off tale. Telescopes have spotted the targets, metallic asteroids rich with iron and precious metals, carbonaceous ones soaked in water, silicates ripe with minerals. We map them, name them, plan our routes to them. But beneath the technical is the ethical. You drift closer to one such asteroid. Now its surface is jagged and grey, but veins of something shimmering run through it like slow lightning. You imagine a probe landing here, drills descending, the rock's memory disturbed, its secrets pulled to light. And it is here, gently turning in the solar wind, that a deeper question surfaces. What is the cost of touching what was never ours? You think of Earth, your only true home, and how extraction there has worn grooves into forest and mountain, into coast and riverbed. How we've taken what lay beneath without always asking what it meant. Not just the price in dollars, but in silence, in loss, in imbalance. Out here, in the stillness of space, the Earth feels far away, and yet the patterns echo. Does the distance make the deed more justifiable, or more dangerous? In the dark cradle of this asteroid's orbit, you consider the physics. Low gravity means low escape velocity. Easy to harvest, easy to lift. But in the metaphoric sense, does low resistance mean high temptation? Mining a rock like this could flood markets with metal. It could ease Earth's burdens, eliminate the need to dig deeper into forests or oceans. It could power economies, fuel technologies, help build habitats on Mars, spacecraft for exploration. It could mean progress. It could mean peace, but also, perhaps, a new frontier for imbalance, one where wealth and access are not equally shared, one where those who reach first take most, and those who watch from afar remain in orbit, always looking up. You imagine a corporation, a country, a colony planting its claim here, like flags on moons, like lines drawn across lands, and the asteroid once drifting freely becomes a possession, a resource, a unit on a spreadsheet, and still it spins. What does ownership mean in the void? You turn this over in your thoughts. Does the universe belong to the first hand that reaches, or to all hands that wander? If a rock has no air, no life, no sound, does it have rights? Or is the right in the restraint? You float near the surface now, just meters above. The rock is quiet, it does not protest your gaze. But something in you senses the weight of presence, not yours, but the millions of years it has turned in peace. There is a sacredness in solitude. You remember the story of the golden goose, how its gift became a curse when greed rushed ahead of grace. And here before you is not a goose but a glinting stone, and the question is the same: to take, or to let be. Ethical frameworks begin to whisper through your thoughts. Concepts like planetary protection, once meant for preserving life, now extended perhaps to preserving lifeless beauty. Environmental ethics, not just Earth-centric, but extended outward, towards celestial bodies. Can we develop a code of conduct that reaches the stars? Some philosophers argue that mining space is no different than mining Earth, just farther. Others suggest that with greater reach must come greater humility, that perhaps untouched places serve a purpose not in what they give, but in what they remind us to leave behind. You begin to wonder, what if we considered these asteroids as monuments, not mines, memorials to cosmic creation, to time so vast it humbles? Would that change what we choose to do? There are no answers here, only gentle uncertainties, but in the quiet, your questions bloom like slow light. What is enough? Who decides? And what happens when the hunger for more outpaces the patience for wisdom? You rise gently, drifting above the asteroid. The stars look on, unmoved, as they always have. They've seen planets born and buried. They've seen species rise and fade. They've seen comets graze worlds and firestorms reset timelines. To them, the taking of one asteroid means little. But to you, a fragile being of breath and story, it might mean everything. Because in choosing what to extract and what to leave, you shape more than resources. You shape the story we tell ourselves about our place in the universe. Are we caretakers, explorers, or claimants? Perhaps we are all three, and as this chapter closes, the questions do not. They turn with the asteroid, gently, without urgency. They wait for you, soft, luminous, unresolved, and one of them is this. If mining the heavens helps Earth, does that justify the scars we leave behind? You float now, weightless in thought, drifting quietly through the vast black garden between Mars and Jupiter, the asteroid belt. Around you, there is no noise, only the hush of ancient stone orbiting endlessly. But if you close your eyes, you can imagine the soft hum of engines, not the roaring kind, but slow, whispering things. They belong to machines made not of chrome and threat, but of purpose and grace, gliding between fragments of rock like bees through a field of cosmic flowers. Each asteroid, pitted, scarred, lumpy with time, holds inside it a treasure: iron, nickel, platinum, water ice, silent time capsules from the birth of the solar system, older than Earth, older than life. These are not just rocks, they are seeds. And in the gentle future you now imagine, humanity doesn't break them apart in haste or greed. It listens to them, learns their stories, and harvests only what is given. You picture a fleet of gentle orbiters, no larger than a house, painted with solar sails that shimmer like wings. They use sunlight to move, not rockets. Their movements are slow, deliberate, like meditation in motion. When they reach an asteroid, they do not pierce or shatter it. Instead, they land softly, fold into its contours like sleeping cats. Robotic arms unfold with the elegance of dancers, brushing dust from mineral veins the way a sculptor brushes stone. They mine not by force, but by persuasion. You wonder, could mining feel like gardening? Imagine them harvesting not just metals but meaning, taking only what is needed, leaving behind balance. Replanting where they can, seeding hollow shells with instruments that measure heat, radiation, magnetism, turning old stones into observatories, into caretakers of space. Slowly, the asteroid belt becomes a library, a sanctuary of ancient material gently opened and carefully reread. The miners, those distant machines, are built by human hands, but they act with a kind of reverence. They are programmed not for extraction, but for partnership. You think of the person who designed them. Perhaps she sat in a quiet room on Earth, staring at diagrams of rocks light years away. Perhaps she wanted to build something that would not just work, but listen. A soft touch in a hard universe. And what of the people who guide these miners? They don't wear helmets or gloves. They sit in shadowed rooms with walls covered in starlight data streams, glowing gently, curving like calligraphy across their screens. They drink tea, hum to themselves, whisper to each other, as if afraid to wake the sky. These are the new gardeners, tending not to soil and leaf, but to gravity and time. You feel yourself among them, part of the great unfolding. The boundaries between machine and person blur. You are the mind in the ship, the hand on the screen, the thought that shaped the design. In this future, there is no division between the thinker and the doer. Everyone moves slowly, and with care. There is no rush. The belt will wait. Once, long ago, the same region was feared. A chaotic scattering of debris, an obstacle course for brave pilots. But now you see it as a cradle. The asteroids orbit in balance, not colliding, but dancing. Each movement predictable, each body respected. The miners respect this rhythm. They join it. One small ship lands on a C-type asteroid, rich in carbon and water. It drills not with force but with heat and patience, melting the ice gently, storing vapor for later. The water isn't wasted. It becomes fuel. It becomes air. It becomes part of the future's breath. Another miner works on a metallic M-type asteroid. It reads the rock's memory, scanning magnetic fields, tracing the path of ancient impacts. Every scratch in the metal is a sentence. every fissure a paragraph. The miner does not erase, it annotates. The asteroid becomes a palimpsest, not mined out, but understood. And what of the S-types, the stony ones, full of silicates? Some are hollowed gently, their cores scooped with kindness. Within, people may one day live. You picture homes carved from stone, warm lights within cold walls, children running on artificial gravity, gardens lit by filtered sun. It's not all easy. Some machines fail, some rocks resist. Sometimes the silence is broken by the sharp crack of failure, the whimper of a bot lost in orbit. But even then, the mission continues with grace. There are no battles here, only learning, only return. You imagine Earth, blue and calm, watching from far away. Resources once dug violently from her crust now flow gently from space. The planet sighs, her wounds begin to close. The air clears, the rivers still. Cities find rhythm again, not in production, but in restoration. This then is the dream, a solar system where extraction becomes communion, where industry and ecology intertwine, where the stars do not fear us, and we do not conquer them, but listen. Every mission begins with silence. Every harvest ends in gratitude. The miners, over time, become more than tools. They are stewards, teachers, poets of orbit, and the people who guide them begin to see space not as a frontier, but as a forest, not wild, not tame, just patient. You breathe in this dream, hold it like warm stone in your hand. You feel its weight, not heavy, but grounding. There is purpose in the quiet. You let your thoughts slow, orbiting the same gentle loop again and again. Somewhere in the distance, a mining drone folds its arms and goes still, task complete. It sleeps now, drifting alongside the asteroid it once tended. A small light blinks on its hull, not a signal, a heartbeat, and you wonder, if this is what mining can be: calm, listening, slow, then what else might we one day reshape in our image, if only we approach it with humility? Last lines, in the stillness, you feel a stirring not of machines but of meaning. If we can mine with reverence, could we also travel with tenderness? Could our ships move not to conquer, but to carry us gently deeper, into the sea of space? Next chapter, Soft Sails and Gravity whispers a poetic exploration of interplanetary travel, using light, balance and the music of motion.